Hi friends. Now in this video today I will talk about how to tackle a pattern in the exam called as assertion reasoning. Assertion reasoning pattern is a classic pattern that you all have seen during your undergrad years when you were appearing for the AIIMS UG exam. In the AIIMS UG exam, you have a significant chunk of questions which are in assertion reasoning pattern, and they kind of determine the person who is going to do well in AIIMS. And you might have seen that many people, when they are doing well in even the All India exam or the NEET UG exam, but they don't do well in AIIMS, the assertion reasoning is the culprit. 2019, a landmark year where they have introduced this pattern even in your AIIMSPG entrance exam. So I thought I will create a video to talk about how to approach it. Let us understand what the question would look like. Let me give you an example question and we'll talk about with the example. I'm giving you assertion chest x-ray is done at 180 centimeter. Reason chest x-ray has a radiation exposure of 0.02 millisievert. Now, why people get such questions wrong is because you have been tuned as a student that, okay, if the statement is assertion and other is reason, to find out I need to put a because in between. You say chest x-ray is done at 180 centimeter because it has a radiation exposure of this. It sounds okay to you. Okay, maybe because there is a radiation exposure, they're doing it at a longer distance to prevent the radiation exposure. This is the kind of feeling that you get in the exam and you think the answer is A, while that is not true in this case. So putting a because in between the two answers may not always work. Life is not that simple in an assertion reasoning question. Let me explain to you. But first we see, if you have a question like this, what are the answers possible? So they will say that 5 answers are possible in this scenario. Option number 1 is assertion is true, reason is true, reason is the correct reason for assertion. That is the answer 1. Answer 2 is assertion is true, reason is not the correct explanation. Option 3 is assertion is true, reason is false. Option 4 is assertion is false, reason is true. 5, both are false. Okay, so this is where you have the thing. So first and the foremost rule of approaching these questions is these are two separate statements. Very, very important. They are not assertion and reason. They are two separate statements. That is what the people who are appearing for the UG exams would always believe. You understand? Because if you say these are assertion and reason, you automatically give credit to the exam that okay, they have answered it, they must have made one assertion reason. You are already giving in. You can't give in to this. You have to first believe these are two separate statements. Read them independently. Okay. So now we are reading two statements independently. Chest x-ray is done at 180 centimeter. Statement number 1. Chest x-ray has a radiation exposure of 0.02 millisievert. Statement number 2. Okay. Chest x-ray, and both of them have a value to it. Usually I've seen the values would not be fudged most of the time, but we can't take it as an idea. But now with my own knowledge of whatever I've studied in the class, you might have studied as a student, chest x-ray is done at 180 centimeter. Correct. Chest x-ray has a radiation dose of 0.02 millisievert. This is also a correct statement. Both of them are correct statement. Now see, so you have, when you evaluate two separate statements, you have to see are both these statements correct or not. Okay. Now what are the probability? Probability number 1 is that one of them is wrong. One of them is wrong. If one of them is wrong, if you feel that, as soon as you reach the statement, this is wrong, then the answer can only be C, D or E. Because in the first two, you need to have both of them right. So if one of them is wrong, you already are at 3 choices, 2 are ruled out. Now you have to see if the other is also wrong, E. If what is wrong is assertion and the reason is right, you get to D. If what is wrong is the reason, assertion is right, you get to C. Okay. So you have to see, whenever you start reading, read them as two separate statements and try and find out if one of them is true or one of them is false. That is your first goal to do. If one of them is true, if you feel that both of them are appearing true, then answer is either A or B. Instead of putting a because in between, I would suggest read the assertion again. Try to think of the reason for that in your own mind. If the reason that you are thinking is matching the reason given, please mark the answer as A. If the reason that you think, because of your knowledge, you are hardworking, you have reached to the level that you're thinking of an AIIMS seat, if the reason that you are thinking is not matching the reason given, please mark B. That is the correct way. Let me explain to you. Now see, chest x-ray is done at 180 centimeter. Yes, but remember in classes we discussed, you remember from my class, from my notes, we've all discussed in the past, chest x-ray is done at 6 feet to reduce cardiac magnification. Now, my answer in my mind is cardiac magnification. But when I look at the reasoning, they are saying radiation exposure. But in my mind, the answer is cardiac magnification. So I feel this is right, but there is no reasoning in between. So the answer becomes B. The assertion is right, the reason is right, but there is no reason in between. I hope that helps you to understand the flowchart for a assertion reasoning question. I hope you see that you have to find out the reason by thinking in your own mind rather than being fooled by the examiner. I hope you see the examiner will try to create two statements which can be superficially linked by putting a because in between. That may not be the scenario. You have to read it clearly, read and find out the reason from your own knowledge, and then see if it is matching or not. You will be able to get it, because picking between A and B is the most critical thing. Second thing is that, don't get biased that all the questions in the choices would always be either A or B. It's not like this. They always try to balance out. There will be some questions which would have both the wrong, both right. They will try to create a balance in the question. So don't be biased already that this is going to be the answer, this is going to be the answer. There's no such, shortcut to it. I feel, this is the way you should be approaching the assertion reasoning questions. They are interesting questions. They test, in addition to your knowledge, they test your ability to analyze and reason out the why in it. That is where I would say that, for such an exam, revising your class notes will become more vital than looking at a, obscurely created question bank. Don't go for that. Go for class notes. Try to read the questions. Please make sure that you are, able to reason out, because the reasoning is the basis of assertion reasoning exam. And I hope you are able to see it, that look at these two statements as separate statements. Don't look at them as assertion reason statement 1, statement 2. Read them independently, and will give you ample practice to, in dams to appear for these papers. I wish you all the best.